All right. Give it a second. I see Sean McGoldrick's in the attendees list too, so we should, okay.
Yep. And I don't see Steve, Sasha, just
Okay, for the attendees, we're just gonna wait another minute to make sure we can get Steve Shasha here before we begin. Thank you for your patience. He could maybe go back out and then reconnect, Sue.
So Jeff's going to be going in, so she knows.
Oh, Meredith, Jeff Kuntz is also going to be joining us.
Oh, okay. Yep, I see him
via
on
Zoom.
the attendees list.
Anybody else that we're expecting this way?
So I can bring Jeff over to the panel.
Thank you.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks for that. Thanks, Jeff.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, is Ed with us tonight as well?
Yes, I have several folks here with me that I was planning to introduce once we got started.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't go anywhere without Ed anymore.
I apologize. We're having a little technical difficulty. We can go ahead and start the meeting, and Councilor Sasha will join us as soon as he can.
Okay. Thanks, Sue. All right. It being 6 p.m. on Thursday, May 7th, 2020, let's begin the third in our series of budget hearings for the Committee of Ways and Means. All votes will be by roll call. And for the committee members, if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Clerk Semino, can we have a roll call to begin the meeting, please?
Council Barica,
Here.
Council Connors,
Here.
Council Flaherty,
Here.
Council Ryan,
Here.
and Council Sasha will be joining momentarily. Thank you.
Okay. Before we get started, I want to thank Director Arsenault and all of his team members who are here with us tonight. I know we had a lengthy set of questions that came over and appreciate all the time it took to answer those. And we're looking forward to hearing from you and your entire team this evening. So thank you so much. And then a reminder for anyone in attendance, members of the public will have a chance to ask questions at our annual town meeting, which is currently scheduled for June 2nd. Anything between now and then, we would encourage you to submit in writing through the town council office so that the director heads have the opportunity to get you your answers before the June 2nd town meeting. So with that, we will move on to the approval of minutes, of which there are none. And there is also no old business. So I will start off with our new business, which is 20038, Mayor FY 2021 operating budget, or take up any action relative thereto. Is there a motion to take this off the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk Semino?
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Yep.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Aye.
Council Sasha, presently not here.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Semino. So we're going to begin tonight with the Department of Public Works, and that is pages 59 through 77. And I'm sorry, so Solicitor Taub, did you want to start off the evening? I apologize.
No, not at all, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you very much. It is with real pleasure that I introduce the folks that I have in the room with me this evening, who I think we could all agree are some of our greatest unsung heroes throughout town. I have Jim Arsenault, Ben Hulk, Nelson Chin, Chris Griffin, Mike McGurty, John Morse, and of course, Ed Spellman here with me. And then we have Jeff Kuntz joining us via Zoom. I want to thank everybody for being here and for all of the incredible efforts they and their teams put in to helping keep the town running and looking beautiful while we're at it. Before I turn it over to Director Arsenault, one positive item that I'd like to flag for the committee as we move into this evening's budgets. As you know from the materials and some of the questions that you've asked, we were anticipating a fairly significant water rate increase that was due in large part to the MWRA assessment charged to the town. We, after receiving the original assessment from the MWRA, we asked representatives from the agency to join us here at Town Hall to discuss and negotiate a potential reduction in that assessment, because it was something that we felt was particularly high for the next year's increase. Very happy to report that we received word just earlier today that the MWRA heard us and reduced our assessment by a total of $381,200. And the real value in that is that it allows us to reduce the total amount of revenue that we need to raise, which in turn reduces the value of the rate increase that impacts residents. And so, I'm not going to, without getting into the specific rates, what I can share is that the overall average resident rate increase under the original assessment was 5.91%. With the reduced assessment shared with us today, the average rate increase is going to drop to 4.48%. And so I was thrilled with the timing of that information from the MWRA and very happy to be able to share that positive news with the committee this evening as we begin to talk about the Department of Public Works and all of their departments and divisions. So with that, I'm going to turn my laptop over to Director Arsenault.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So I'm just gonna kind of go through a little bit. I think you probably know a lot about what we do, but I just wanted to give a brief overview of the DPW and things that we do. So I know you already received the description and all that stuff, but I'm just gonna kind of go over and highlight. So Department of Public Works, we did about a reorganization a couple of years ago to better improve our function and ability to get done what we need to do. That included an implementation of a new stormwater utility to try to help better fund the organization. It also included a lot of succession planning, making sure that we had staff had what they need, and we also wanted to make sure they had proper training and availability. So we moved a lot of people around. We made sure that the organization structure was better. We created 2 assistant director positions, one of which is now here, and in the future there'll be another one. And those aren't new positions. They're actually created out of existing positions, so it wasn't a lot of added expense relative to that. So we have one over operations side, which is Ben Hulk, and then we also have a position that will be over all of engineering and water and sewer coming up in the future. So there was a lot of, relative to stormwater, there was a lot of federally mandated and unfunded programs that helped us implement that and get that up and running, because we really did have a lot of needs relative to that. And so we'll be talking more about that later. But I just wanted to mention that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to constantly streamline and make things function better within the municipality. I mean, within the Department of Public Works, to make sure we service our residents and make sure we do what we need to do. I will say that Public Works really care about the community. I know every department does, but they really put a lot of effort. I see it every day, and they put the extra effort, and they really go above and beyond to make sure that the residents of this community have the best from them that they can. I can't say enough for that. You see a lot of the guys really dedicated to getting the job done. And so it's an honor to work with them. So we've done a lot this year and the past few years to try to reduce the budget. We've been asked to do so, and we've worked to the best of our ability to do so. You can see a lot of the funding, some funding decreases here and there as we try to adjust that and provide some savings to the community, and try to make sure we have we're able to function as we need to, and also make sure that what funds we really do need we have available at the same time. And so you'll see some new positions in the Department of Public Works, but I never, in all the time I've been here, I've never brought on positions without having some type of balance with that. And I always do that whenever as part of the original reorg, and also whenever I do it, I make sure that there's a balance to the funding. It's not an open checkbook, as maybe some other places may do that, but not acceptable to me. There should be a balance. And so we'll talk about that as it goes along through the budget. So we're trying to also at the same time trying to address a lot of the new up and coming regulations and permitting and all that stuff to make sure we're in compliance. So we're trying to morph all of those things at the same time. We're also trying to reduce and trying to reorganize, go further along on the reorganization. And so it's worked very well so far, I believe, and I think that it's really tried to strive to meet the needs of the community. So and also as Nicole mentioned, the Public Works is one of the departments that definitely almost never receives very much credit. When an event happens and other divisions, they're like, "Well, you did a great job," or this or that. Usually what happens is if everything's flawless and we do everything right, no one says a word. if we do something wrong, it's all over the papers and everybody's screaming at us, and so our accomplishment is when no one says anything, basically. So I really do appreciate, and I always try to tell all of my employees and recognize them when they do a good job, because I think it's really important that they know that they do have a place and that they have been participating and helping. So that's all I really wanted to say in my prologue there. So Nicole, I guess we'll open to questions.
Thank you so much, Jim. I know you have an unbelievable department, and it feels like sometimes a Herculean task overseeing it all. So thank you for all you do. So let me open it up for questions. Counselor Ryan?
Thank you. Hi, Jim. Good evening. So maybe you briefly talked about an overview of the department. So what are the major changes we're going to see for this year, this budget, and what, cost savings you had to implement as a result of budgetary impacts, just things we should know about?
Okay. So
Big ticket items are,
Sure.
30,000 foot view items.
Yeah, so some of the big items within the now we're on public works side, so I'll talk about that at this time, and then probably move into those other ones when we get into them. But on the public works side, the traffic engineer position was consolidated with the town engineer position, so that position is no longer in the town. With those savings, we were able to get an electrician and a janitorial or custodial person, and they're badly needed because we have some new facilities now that we just recently brought online. So we have for a long time we've had our site at Pond Street, but it's not, the site at Pond Street wasn't really it was kind of self-maintained for a long time, and now we're taking on those duties. The Art Center was completely alien to the Public Works Department, and we've been asked to take on those duties as well. Eldred School, we didn't maintain that facility at all. It just basically sat vacant for a long time, and now we've been asked to take on those duties. And there are other buildings that may be becoming part of our, our need to maintain in the near future too. So there's a lot of added responsibility as far as the custodial services. So we have that full-time position and also some part-time help as well. And then the other one is the electrician, which the electrician position, actually, we already spend a lot of money on electrical costs for electrician throughout the year. And it adds up to just about similar to what the cost would be for that position. It's a lot of work all the time, updating the systems when they have concerns regarding so electrical items all throughout the year. So that's something that we feel would provide some savings there, because now it's not only would we pay almost the same amount, but now we have that person there all the time. So it wouldn't be just they come in, do the work, and leave, and we only use them maybe a couple hours a day, and that's it, or maybe every couple of weeks or something. But they're going to be here all the time, and as things come up, either they do the electric work or help with other things. So they're always here to help out and do that work. Or if there's something emergency at night, we don't have to pay like triple charges at night to have someone come out. They just come and do, get regular overtime to do the extra work. So that's kind of a big part of that part of the program. Also within Public Works, we tried to reduce the cost quite as much as we could. We always do, but this year we were asked to really, really push hard and see if we could do a significant, as much as we could to get that cost down. So within the engineering section, you'll notice some of the levels decreasing and some of the costs changing a little bit. And so those costs, actually, what we did was reduce some of those costs that we felt were actually within the water and sewer division. They were spent mostly doing activities that would do water and sewer. We were able to decrease that some. We also re-looked at our positions within engineering and said, do those positions, are they truly representative, the percentages that we get back from our transfer? that was representative of what we actually spend in time. And so we were able to make a determination that, no, there were some savings we could switch over to water and sewer. So the town engineer and the assistant town engineer were 33%, when actually they're spending about 60% of their time doing water and sewer related items. So we switched that and increased that amount percentage-wise over to water and sewer. We also took 2 positions that were 33% that were assistants, and they do a significant amount of time in water and sewer related. So we moved them up to almost 80%. Oh, sorry.
So the numbers I'm seeing in the budget for those positions are a percentage of their salaries, and some of the salaries also budgeted under the water and sewer department.
So what happens is they are actually separately, when we have a transfer to general and within the, I think, do you want to talk about it, Ed, or?
It's just a real simple question.
Yeah. No, so
You just said part of their salary, they do 60% of the work for the water and sewer. So it's 40% of their budget here and 60% in water and sewer.
no, it's all within the engineering section of the general fund. But there's a line item transfer from, from water and sewer to the general fund saying, hey, we recognize you're doing this work, so we're going to compensate you for that.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no problem. And then, I can't see from far, sorry. Oh, and then within the Parks and Recreation Division, we have, what happened was every year we asked for capital funds, and kind of, everybody's, it's competitive, everybody's trying to get some capital for the programs and stuff, but every year we tried to get, and we have done pretty well with getting capital money for the Parks Department, but really a lot of that work is a yearly routine that we have to get, we have to do regular maintenance items. So within the program, we wanted to dedicate our operating item. So we created a new item for maintenance of the parks and facilities, and we put some money into that account. So it wasn't all reductions. We did do some increases where we felt was necessary. And so that helped out as well. Another increase item you'll see in there is if you look at solid waste, there's in the recycling part of that, the recycling costs have gone up tremendously. And there's just no way we could keep it at the same level. So you will see increases in that section. And Jeff Kuntz, later on, if you want to talk more about that, and I'm just going to do the oversight for now, but he could definitely talk a lot more about what those costs are and why they are increasing. But it's very complex. It has a lot to do with the international trade of recyclable materials, but it's really have a huge impact on the cost of those materials. So those are the big items that I can.
So through the chair. So Jim, Bob Campbell's retiring.
Yes.
When's his last day?
May 29th, I believe. 21st. Oh, I got corrected. 21st. Yes.
Tremendous loss for the town of Braintree, Bob Campbell retiring.
Absolutely.
For the folks that really, Bob Campbell's the town engineer. Bob Campbell, back in the day, we used to have a company that did all the design work for the roadways, to do roads over in the town of Braintree. And you'd get money to repair the roads, and you'd have to spend a big chunk of the money to get the roads designed. Bob Campbell does all the design work for the roadways in the town of Braintree. So now all the money we spend to do the roads over, 100% of it goes towards the actual work to do the roads over. And that's Bob Campbell took on that responsibility. So it's going to be a tremendous loss for the town of Braintree with Bob Campbell retiring. And I hope we can talk. You mentioned succession planning earlier in your discussion, Mr. Arsenault. Hopefully we can find someone. I know we have a good assistant town engineer, John Morse, and hopefully someone's going to fill his Bob Campbell's shoes very well. But I just wanted to point out to everybody, we're going to miss
Unfortunately,
Bob.
John is maybe a short timer as well. So But we have been advertising, so it is actually advertised, and we're trying to get someone here ASAP.
Mhm.
And John, you know, we're talking to him, so we'll see what happens.
Good. I just want to bring up
Yeah,
one
so he's
point
hearing.
through Madam Chairman. One more point is that I understand the discussion from the DPW director around having an electrician for these buildings, that the responsibility to maintain these buildings now has fallen under the DPW, and they have decided that an electrician is needed, and it makes fiscal sense to hire one full-time instead of paying for an electrical contractor, and I understand that. But to me, to hear that we're not going to fund the traffic engineering position anymore is, I'm concerned with that, to be honest. And I'm not faulting you for deciding where you needed to spend the money, but the traffic engineer that we had on board for a little while came up with some very good recommendations on traffic improvements around town. And one of the things I think we all as counselors hear every day from constituents is that driving around Braintree is a big problem with all the traffic. Maybe not now with coronavirus going on, but under normal conditions, it's a big problem. So to hear that we don't have the traffic engineer on board to continue, or I know the one we had isn't on board anymore, but to hear we don't even have the position anymore, it's concerning to me. So I'm wondering what the game plan, and you don't have to answer that right now, but what's the game plan moving forward, and how are we going to continue to address traffic issues in the town where we had that traffic engineer, and it was I was seeing some real positive results from that position. So I'm look forward to hearing how we're going to deal with that. Thank you.
Chair, do you want me to?
Yes, sorry.
Respond?
Thank you, Director Arsenault.
So with the new person we're hiring, we did indicate that it's critical that they have traffic experience and knowledge, and can help in that, assist in that regards. And it's not out of question that in the future something we can't relook at that position. It's just at this time that's our critical need, but it's not to say that next year we can't relook at that as well. So.
Thank you. I'm all set, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ryan. Councilor Connors?
Hey, Jim. So I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm a newbie. I'm still learning the ropes. So,
Sure.
and we literally got our books on Sunday, and I've been trying to keep up with meetings all week. You have the last meeting of the week, and I was not able to catch up just due to workload. And it's been crazy for us for the week, trying to look at all the budgets, talk about them at night when you're working full time. So I may have some questions after this meeting once I really do a final look-see, but just a couple of questions that I had. You guys said that in your thing, you say that you guys have reduced over 5%. Is that 5% global, like a global between DPW, water, sewer, and everybody? Because if I look at the DPW, it looks like we've increased by 1.38%. The sewer's increased. So is it a global, is it
No.
all of your departments smushed down to combine together that save 5%?
Madam Chair? Okay. So what it is that 1.5%, like I said, is what they're showing relative from last year. So the way we budgeted it, we actually put in all the needs that were requirements that we absolutely had to meet. And then we reduced that number down. So it wasn't necessarily from last year's budget, but it was how much do you need by requirement, like, cost of living increases, benefits, all that stuff. And you bring it up to that amount, and then you decrease it by that percentage. So that's really where that's coming from. And in addition, that number also doesn't show those transfers I talked about. So there's money that's coming from the Water and Sewer Division to help fund the general fund. So it doesn't show that in that number.
Is that the $800,000? Nicole might be able to answer that one better.
I don't know what the exact number was, but it's increased in that transfer quite a bit.
It has. It's like a 25% increase going into the general fund.
So that skews the number also. So that's where it's coming from. For the combination of those two, that's where the 5% is.
Okay. is there any way to get where you were and where you went to show the reductions? Because and again, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, we've got all these, every other department we've done has shown a negative from last year's budget.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm confused. I thought it was supposed to be 4% from last year's budget.
You want me
versus
to,
4%.
I can give it to Ed, maybe he can show you, explain a little more.
Okay. Hi, Ed.
How are you? Good evening.
Good, how are
everyone.
you?
Good evening.
The budget message we gave to the departments was that we asked them to take the current year fiscal 20 budget
Mhm.
and put in the contractual increases for the various union contracts. It included cost of living increases. There were also step increases for people who weren't at the maximum step. And there were certain increases in some of the other line items that you saw in the first two nights, specifically things like glasses and some clothing and
Right.
work boots and things like that. That was the base point. And from there, we had asked departments originally to cut 1%. And then we came back at a later date and asked them to cut an additional 3%. So those were the numbers. That's where we were. And this budget is up slightly because of the increases in the salary, the contractual increases, and then the two positions specifically that Jim talked about with regards to the electrician and the custodian for the additional services that his department and staff are required to maintain the additional buildings.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee members?
Oh, I have some more. Sorry, I wasn't done.
Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
know, sorry. So, from looking at the past 10 years of positions, the Department of DPW ran about 38 to 44 people from 2010 to 2018. In 2019, we jumped up to 51. We hired 7 additional people. And I didn't get the data from 2020. I don't know why. So I don't know how many people. And then DPW, is it only, so in your memo, you say you're hiring 9 new people?
No, we're hiring 9 people, yes.
Yeah.
So before.
So is that's not in DPW though, right? Like how many are in
No,
DPW?
in DPW is only the 2 I mentioned, that's it.
The 2.
Yeah.
So it's +2 this year, not 9. And then the other ones, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, since we started, Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, please, go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so within the general fund, there hasn't been a significant increase in positions since I got here. It's been about, I believe in the first time that the reorganization first came out, I believe it was just 4 positions. And then since then, we've now added the new 2 positions. So it hasn't been a lot of people in the general fund. Within Water and Sewer Division, there's definitely been increases, and within Stormwater. That's where the significant increases lie. But within the general fund, no, we haven't had a significant increase. And as was noted, we actually lost a position this time as well. So it's really a net increase of 1 position.
It's funny, it shows, so I asked for the data, it shows that in 2018 you had 44, and in 2019 you had 51 in the DPW. That's the data that was given to me.
I'm not sure. I don't have that information in front of me.
Yeah. And then, like I said, 2020, I don't know. So one of the other questions I had was, now that you're bringing in the electrician, where are the decrease in costs for the consultants or the part-timers or whatever it is that you're now saving for the electrician? Where is the decrease show on the line items that you have?
No, the costs we have are in the, I can have my assistant come over and explain where the money is spent out of. Is that what you're saying, the electrical work?
No. So you said you were hiring an electrician. It was going to save us money. And because we don't have to call someone in to do electrical work, and there would be a cost savings there. So what line item did where we pull the electrician from, did that decrease, I guess is my question.
I can ask my assistant, Mike McGurdy, to respond to that.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So the question is, where are we getting the money from to cover the electrical expense for this person?
It's
What
not
we
really
spent-
where we're getting the money from. It's, the comment was made that we're hiring an electrician, but we've been paying all these other costs to bring in someone. So I guess my question is, where is the line item that shows the decrease? Because we won't have to bring in an electrician.
What it would be is what we're doing is the building repair costs and the basic maintenance costs in our budget that we have for building repairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we do any type of special projects where we have to maybe do a repair work, we'll take that out of one of the other line items if we have to shift something over to bring an electrician in. We spent roughly $120,000 in the last year for electrical fees, 63,000 of which was spent for labor alone. And when we calculated that out, we were spending $63,000 roughly for 20 hours a week for an electrician. So based upon a full-time electrician for the town, we'd be getting $120,000 worth of work. And we rely on outside electricians almost on a daily basis. It holds up a lot of our work. If we had it done in-house, we could save quite a bit of money. It's something that we've needed since day one when we really put the facilities department together 3 years ago. That was my first request, and we're here today, and we will definitely see, and I can promise you, we will see it, the savings over this upcoming year if we have this position filled.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. I know how valuable electricians are. They're few and far in between. When you find them, if you find a good one, you're doing good, but they are very valuable. I was surprised to see all the jobs in there, that we had all these mechanics and custodians or whatever, and we didn't have an electrician. We had a plumber, we have all that, but we didn't have that.
Exactly.
I was just trying to figure out where potentially we would see the decrease in your other line item for that. But you said it was under building repairs, which is always exceeded anyways.
Yeah,
Is that why?
well, a lot of our building repairs, unfortunately, take place after hours. We have to get into the offices, and it runs the overtime budget, goes through the roof. So that also will come down. You won't see as much of the overtime that we've been piling up.
Is that why you kept it at the 75 versus increasing it to what you've been running for the past 3 years?
Yes, exactly. Oh, sure.
So, while I was over there, I thought of that as well. That is that particular line item where it's 75. That's the reason why we didn't increase that amount. So.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of my questions. Like, why aren't you increasing that line amount? You've exceeded it every year for the past 4 years. You might as well just put what you're really going to spend in there.
Yep.
Okay, I think I'm okay for now. But like I said, I definitely will have some more basic questions. I just, again, I apologize. It's a lot of stuff to go through, and to only have a day or two to go through it is not, in my eyes, it just wasn't sufficient for me. So I'm sorry, but I'll get some more questions to you after this.
Nicole wants to talk if that's
Okay.
I just wanted to, if I may, Madam Chair, add one thing to Councilor Connor's questions. If you look at, I think the PDF that was posted to the website was tagged as an exhibit or Appendix H, and it's in your binder, Appendix H. Yep. It's the payroll detail report. Yep. And so the DPW data starts on page 49, and that actually runs through all of the positions, both currently being funded in DPW and proposed to be added for fiscal 21, which gives you a count of the number of employees, which is the update from the information that was previously provided that ran through 2019.
Yeah. Got it. I can get 2020 out of there.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. I didn't even do that.
No problem.
Thank you. Councilor Shasha?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think I just have a couple questions left after you answered most of them in the email. First was, as far as the lighting expense decreasing by 116,000 due to upgrading to LED lights, is that a project that is ongoing so that there might be future increased reductions, or is everything upgraded at this point? So the cost now is pretty much the cost going forward.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
So-
go right ahead,
so
Director
the-
Arsenal.
Yes, so my understanding is that Bell did complete that project, so that the reduction was part of overall funding. The vast majority of the work was completed. There may be some small remaining, but basically everything's done. So what happened was they did all that work. Then they said, okay, over a period of time, we're going to bill the community for that improvement. And now it's getting to the very end of that repayment. And so there'll be a reduction this year, and I believe next year as well. And then we should be down a total of $200,000 a year. So 100,000 this year and 100,000 next year.
Great, thank you. The other question, this may have been covered. I had trouble getting into the meeting. The summer activities decreasing by 160,000 or something like that.
Yes.
That was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I think everybody knows why that happened.
Is that a fairly sure thing at this point? Or
well, we're still continuing to evaluate what the situation will be, and it's but we're trying to be proactive and trying to look into. So we continue to look at possible summer programs, and we're always being prepared if we do need to reopen or reschedule events, depending on what happens. So right now we haven't made any decisions, but that's where at this moment in time we're seeing it. So. Okay,
thank you. And the last one was just for informational purposes. The new stormwater management division. Can you just give me an idea what they will be doing? I understand cleaning the streets, getting stuff out of the sewers. What else will they actually be doing day to day?
Right, that will actually be in a separate section. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, Councilor Shasha,
okay.
That's one of the other items on tonight's agenda as its own entity.
And we'll be presenting and giving great detail.
All right, good enough. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
You're welcome. Any other committee members have questions on DPW related items? Director Arsenal, I just have a couple of questions. And this may be Ed, or maybe we can let me know if this is appropriate for now or later on. I'm just wondering about overtime in general. I understand and I appreciate answering all the questions I had on the overtime budget for the DPW specifically. But as I've been going through different departments, it seems like we're fairly consistent with the amount of money we spend on overtime every year, but we're consistently under budgeting for it. And I'm trying to understand, is that like a strategy we're trying to pursue, or is there a reason we're not bringing, and I believe the mayor had mentioned this as well when he submitted the budget. So I don't know if that may not be DPW specific, and also happy to put that off to another evening if it's better suited to be so.
Do you think Nicole wants to speak, if that's okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can talk briefly about the overtime. I mean, I think the reality is the overtime needs of the departments vary greatly depending on the type of services being provided, which is why you see at a minimum variation in the overtime costs incurred, for example, compared between DPW and police and fire, which historically are some of our larger spenders when it comes to overtime. I think what the mayor mentioned during his initial budget presentation was that increase in the funding in both the police and fire overtime budgets was provided in order to acknowledge and begin to address what you've raised is a historic underfunding or not insufficient funding to cover the overtime costs. And so we're comfortable that between starting to increase those lines, coupled with increased oversight and management by the respective department heads, we can move the town budget closer to a realistic overtime number, which again fluctuates pretty significantly and is contingent on a variety of factors, but nobody can dispute that those totals are typically insufficient to cover the costs. And so we're trying to get closer to realistic funding numbers in all of the departments for the overtime costs.
Thank you so much, Solicitor Taub. I think, we've had a lot of discussions over the last 3 nights about the free cash. And I just want us to be mindful of we're already feeling a little bit tight on that, or we will be feeling a little bit tight on that. And so should we be thinking differently about the overtime line items, whether it's in the DPW budget or elsewhere, to get us closer to a realistic number so we don't have surprises at the end of 21?
I think it's somewhat tricky because overtime is impacted by a variety of factors. For DPW, I would imagine it can be weather dependent or emergency dependent, or special projects and work that has to be done in the evening and weekend hours. And so hopefully by bringing some of these positions in-house, that's going to reduce some of the overtime costs faced by this department. For police and fire, a lot of times you see it can be dependent on staffing levels and whether you have folks on leaves of absence or some type of leave that requires backfill. Particularly in police and fire, and I don't want to speak for them where they're going to be before you Monday evening, there is a significant backfill that ends up happening when you're short staff for whatever the reason, which incurs overtime cost. And so, and the chiefs certainly can elaborate on the efforts they're making and are going to continue to be making to control those costs, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation like we have in years past, incurring requesting a large supplemental to cover those expenses at the end of the year.
Thank you. And my other question is on, I believe, and Jim, you correct me if I'm wrong, is there state aid, is it Chapter 90 state aid that we would receive, and that's specific to DPW projects?
Yes,
how does that money factor into your budget, or can you give me a little bit of a better understanding of how that works?
Yeah, about roughly a half of our roadway projects are funded for that money. And so we use those funds to improve. It has to be used for improvements on the roadway. So it can't really be used for anything else.
For the Concord Roads project?
It does fluctuate every year. Some years we have a little bit more money. Sometimes it's the other direction. So, but it's run by the state, and we really haven't had any significant increases in the funding in a long time. But it has helped us to basically take advantage of that funding matched with ours to really get a lot of good work done in the town.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It's funded through the capital program as well. So.
Okay, yep, and I do see you guys did address that on the Q&A, so thank you, and thank you for readdressing it. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions from the committee members for the DPW portion of tonight's agenda? Councilor Ryan?
Thank you. I just want to thank Jim Arsenault for the work he does. We mentioned earlier, it's not very glamorous and you don't get a lot of recognition, and the only time you really get noticed is when something goes wrong. And I work in the public works field, and I guess we have to take comfort in when we're not in the spotlight and things are going well and we're out of sight, out of mind, and that's the reward. But we have a lot of good people that do a lot of good work in the town, whether they're working for, I know we're not talking about water and sewer right now, water and sewer, the highway department, parks and recreation, a lot of good people that do a lot of good work. One of the biggest jobs is snow removal in the town. It's something people count on. after we have a snowstorm, and I think it's something we do very well in the town of Braintree. You know, when we talk about the things that make the town great, we talked about the golf course last night, you know, the parks and playgrounds in the town of Braintree. We're very lucky to have the quality parks and playgrounds that we have, and the folks that operate and maintain those parks, under Nelson Chin, do a great job. The roads program, you know, back when before we became mayoral and council form of government, the roads were really neglected in the town of Braintree. Anybody that's lived here more than 10 years knows that it was one of the worst things about the town 12 years ago. But over the last 12 years under this form of government, we've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of roads over. So hopefully we're gonna see that commitment continue, and we're gonna have whatever outstanding roads need to be done over, we'll continue to do that. Hopefully, I've walked on one road, the Longview, the road was done over not too long ago. The sidewalks a little tough though. I'm hoping we can make sure we do the sidewalks on the roads that really need the sidewalks done too. But I really just want to say thank you for all the good work that the Department of Public Works staff does. And a lot of times the question of overtime came up. A lot of times when you're working for the DPW, you're working in the snow, you're working overnight, you're working in the rain, you're working in the middle of the street, you're working in a hole, you're working in a sewer line. So it's tough money to make, and they really earn their salary, and they really earn the overtime when they do work it. And I just want to say thank you for all the hard work that you do. Thank you, Jim, and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue, I believe we have to vote on the revolving fund.
They're saying there's two of them?
Funds R5 and R7.
Okay. I marked the page tonight, so I would find it again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Order 20040.
Yep, so is there a motion for order 20040?
Yes, it's for revolving accounts. I'll take up any action related thereto.
To take up,
It's,
please take off the table first.
take it off the table. Motion to
Thank
take it off the table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Clerk Semino.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Aye.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Yes.
Council Sasha.
Yes.
5 in favor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for order 20040, revolving account R5?
Yes, so the motion is for favorable recommendation to the full council for order 20040R5, that the mayor be authorized to use a revolving fund in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E.5, that may be spent by the mayor in conjunction with the recycling coordinator without further appropriation during the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020, for the purchase of home composting bins, curbside recycling bins, recycling bags, and for the collection of fees and payments for recycling material, including hazardous waste. The recycling revolving fund is to be credited with all fees collected during the fiscal year 2021. The mayor may spend up to $2,000 in revolving fund monies during fiscal year 2021. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Councilor Connors,
Aye.
Councilor Flaherty,
Yes.
Councilor Ryan,
Yes.
Councilor Sasha.
Yes.
5 in favor.
Thank you.
The next motion, Madam Chairman, before I make the next motion, I also noticed that, if I could through the chair, that Jeffrey Kuntz is on the line. I just want to say we're very lucky to have Jeff Kuntz with the recycling efforts and the sustainability efforts in the town of Braintree. I remember 16 years ago when Jeff Kuntz started talking to me about sustainability, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And he taught me about, recycling and needing to be able to have a sustainable environment. And we're very lucky to have him. And I just want to say thank you, Jeff, for all the efforts you do as well.
Thank you, John.
Having said that, the motion for favorable recommendation to the full council for 040R6, that the mayor be authorized to use a revolving fund in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53.5, that may be spent by the mayor in conjunction with the recycling coordinator without further appropriation during the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020, for the collection of fees and payments from the collection of revenue generating materials to use the income to promote town recycle initiatives and events, including household hazardous waste events. The household hazardous waste revolving fund is credited with all fees collected during fiscal year 2021. The mayor may spend up to $50,000 in revolving funds monies during the fiscal year 21. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Aye.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Aye.
Council Sasha,
Yes.
all in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to table this motion at this time?
Thank you.
May 18th, please.
Is there a motion to table order 20040 to our Ways and Means Committee meeting on May 18th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Aye.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Yes.
Council Sasha,
Yes.
all in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. While we have Jeff who's with us, I just want to find out if there's any questions pertaining to recycling or the recycling center before we move on to sewer. Councilor Ryan?
Jeff, when is the recycling center contemplating reopening?
The issue there is physical separation of people. At any given time, we can have up to 15 people in that small confined area. And it's also the responsibility of the attendants who are there, all of them part-time, with the exception of the Vedanta person who assist residents. So they're handling trash, they're handling recycling. And until we can find a way to separate those activities from the attendants, I think we have to wait for the state to give us a better indication of what to do. So the answer is we don't have a startup date, and we'll work with the mayor's office to do it safely when we do.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you. All right. I think we can move on to sewer, which is pages 89 to 95 in your books. Just give everyone a second to get there. And if you guys don't mind, just stating the page you're citing, if you're asking a question specific to a line item, I think that would be helpful since we're doing this remote. Okay, are there any questions from the committee members?
If I may, Madam
Oh,
Chair.
please, go right ahead.
I'm just going to turn the laptop over to Superintendent Lou Dutton from.
Thank you. Yep, go right ahead. Hi, Lou.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Lou, did you want to give us an overview or do you want us to get right into questions?
You can go right into questions. There's,
Okay.
I think everybody, Jim and wow, Nicole have given you an overview.
Yeah, we had, and I know there was quite a long list of questions that got sent back as well. So do any of the committee members have questions on the sewer? Councilor Connors.
I didn't even mute, sorry. So I just have a one question. So your increase was 4.49 mostly due to, oh, look, Chuck's calling. mostly due to the mass water resource, which you guys just said is decreased by 315,000. Was that the number, I think?
381,000.
381, so they're decreasing by 381?
Yes.
Yes.
So other than that, I mean, you guys have a pretty small budget, but did you guys also go back and look to try and see where you could cut the 4%? And how did you end up with that?
No, we did not.
We didn't.
We
Were
did
you
not.
guys asked to go back and look?
No, we were not asked to cut 4% on the water sewer.
Excuse me? Jim Arsenal again. So, hi, Madam Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Jim.
Okay, so again, this is a water and sewer utility, similar to golf, where revenue comes in and then we have expenses and it's balanced. So the balance is done by, as we had talked about before, setting the rates every year for it, which are required by law. And so we balance that to through, and the okay. So yeah, so we balance the rates every year to make sure that everything is funded. And so with sewer in particular, it's almost all of the vast majority of the cost is MWRA funding. So there's a significant portion of that basically we have to spend, and that large number we told you about before and the decrease, that is the reduction in that overall MWRA payment. So that's where we got the reduction in it, and that it saved our rates from going up higher than we would have had to. So that's the thing, is it's not a reduction based on, it's basically trying to make sure that we have adequate supplies and materials needed for the division, and also if we stay within that balance of funding.
So let me just make sure I got it right. Nicole said we're dropping down from 5.91% to 4.48% this year. Can you just, can one of you guys, I don't know if it's your, can one of you guys, what have the past rates been for the past couple of years? Like, what's the increase? Are we averaged on the increase that we're going up? I guess is the question.
I'll give it over to Ed. I don't have all the previous years.
Okay. Go ahead, I don't have the rate.
Oh. I think you're getting it? Okay.
And we can also bring this back if you guys don't have.
I'll just ask you a question. I was just looking to see, like in 2018, what was our increase, 2019, just to get a feel of what our average increase has been. If this is an average year increase, if it's a significant year increase, if it's a lower year increase.
Past years.
No, past years, I don't think.
Yeah, we have had, I don't have all of the way back. Yeah, past rates. Okay. Increases. No, it's for the past years, they're saying. The rates that we increase in rates.
Give us 1 second.
Okay.
Yep,
Can you hold on a second?
We can answer this later. I don't want to hold up the whole craziness.
Through the chair, maybe they can just get back to us with that.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
I agree with
Councilor
Donna.
Ryan. And I think it's a very fair and valid question, but you guys definitely feel free to get back to us.
I think Ed is gonna.
Earlier,
Madam Chair. I think Ed is going to be looking for that information, so we can maybe go on with something else and then get back to that.
Yep,
That's the only questions I had.
Okay.
Any other questions on the sewer budget? Councilor Ryan?
Yeah, I have a question on what, so are we seeing money being spent, is the money being spent for PFAS going to happen in 2020, going to be all spent, or is it going to go into 2021?
At this point, we are going to spend the money in FY21, I believe. Oh, yeah. And just to give you an update on that PFAS, we had the first meeting for the new treatment plant. And one of the things that we did do was we went on virtual tours of some other facilities. One of the facilities did have GAC filters, And the first question that I asked was, what was the lifespan of the filters before you had to replace that media? And their answer was 3.5 to 4 years. So we could possibly see a substantial savings using the GAC. So it could be well below, and that's what we're hoping for. So we made, a good determination on that.
So you're spending the money in 2021,
Correct.
and that's in this budget.
That wouldn't be in the sewer side. It'd be
I'm
capital.
asking a water question. I understand that. Is it in the water budget?
Capital.
It's capital. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Flaherty? You're on mute, Counselor Flaherty.
Sorry. Okay, so it's not a budget question really, but I had a resident ask me when the apparatus would be installed in the plant in order to take care of the PFAS.
We just received the engineering contract earlier this week. So we're reviewing that, and then as soon as we get that signed, then we'll be able to start the process, and we'll have the first filter done hopefully within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
How many filters? Remind me how many filters there are.
There's 5. We have to do the first one as a demonstration for the DEP, so that we can show them that yes, it is working, and they want to make sure that the numbers are where they're supposed to be. And then once we get the okay from the state, then we'll do the other 4.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on sewer before we move on to water?
I have the numbers you were looking for.
Oh, great.
So 2017 was a 4.86% increase. FY 2018 was an 8.28% increase. 2019 was a 5% increase. And 2020, 7.08%.
And so 21, we're looking at 4.5.
4.48.
Thanks, Ed. I rounded. I'm putting that 100th place in my notes, though. Don't worry. I'm sorry, Lou. What was 2020?
7.08.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Connors?
So just a quick question. So with the rates, so it's like goes down and then up and down and up. Is that like a cycle? Is there something that causes or is it just that's what we need for the year, depending on MWRA rates?
It's dependent on MWR rates. It's dependent on usage. It's dependent on projects that we have going on that we may have to fund. So there's multiple pieces that we look at.
So there's not something like that happens every other year that causes it to jump up a little and then go back?
No, most of it is reflected on the MWRA costs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, we can move on to water, which is pages 96. Sorry, guys, I just lost my cheat sheet here. 96 to 106. So open it up to any of the committee members when you're ready with questions. Counselor Connors.
I'm back. So this is the one with the 4 positions due to the new stormwater regulations?
No, this is strictly for water.
What are the 4 positions? Or wait a minute. Am I on the wrong section? This one has a labor custodian mechanic increase of $240,000.
Nope, that's I think you're talking, that's the stormwater, I believe. We have 4 positions in the water section, which would be 61-43804, 5104.
Oh, okay.
My page numbers for some reason are different.
That's the, yeah, that's the 240, Lou, I think, the one I'm looking at.
Page 66.
It would be page 66, I believe.
Right, those are the 4. So what are those 4 positions for?
What those 4 positions are for is we wanted to get 4 more positions so that we could save money on capital costs. By doing small water projects, main replacements, we have a lot of dead ends in the town that we would like to loop around and see a little more work on, you know, those kind of projects. And also to get back to letting the other guys that we have on the crew, let them we got a brand new Vector that should be going out every day to clean out the sewer lines, make sure they're clear. We've had some insurance claims, and in order to negate those insurance claims, we need to get out there and we need to get those sewer mains cleaned. So by adding these 4 personnel, it'll allow us to do a lot more maintenance that we need to do.
And so this is the one, and this may not be you. This may be more of an Ed question. So when we had talked about revenues coming in, this was the budget with the most significant increase. So the average, we've gone from 6.91 in 2014, an increase in revenue, which again, may not be you, maybe Lou, or maybe Ed. And then we, in 2020, we're down to 2.92. And then this year we jumped it almost 10%. And some of that is due to your tri-town. I get that. That's like 500,000
Yes.
Or a small percentage of that.
Yes.
But I'm wondering where the other huge percentage comes from that we're so significantly increasing. And I can only find, and again, I'm a newbie, I'm just looking at the numbers and I really haven't had the time that I should have had to look at it. But I'm wondering where that other, I guess, $1 million increase, why we need the, you know, what the $1 million increase in revenue is that's causing the increase up to 10%.
There are, within water and sewer, Madam Chair, if I may speak.
Yes, go right ahead, Director Arsenault.
There are a couple of things going on. So we have an existing treatment plant on the water side. So it's a very substantial cost increase for that plant.
Oh,
And so as far as the revenue, what we're trying to do is slowly increment the costs over time. We don't want to have it all at once, one big increase for the treatment plant. So over time, we're slowly trying to seed that and make sure that we get the funding so it's implemented as part of that program. And so the other thing we mentioned as far as the personnel, that increase is, what we're doing with that is we're actually going to be over time slowly decreasing some of the capital costs of that. So it will be reducing those costs relative to capital in order to pay for those new positions. So what happens is we've been spending a lot of money every year, as Charlie, Mr. Ryan has discussed, and we will continue to do so. But since it's ad infinitum, at one point, you know, we will be, it's always, if you have in-house staff and they can do it on a regular basis, that saves profit, overhead, all that stuff that a regular business would be taking out of it, and having our people provide those services in-house will be helpful in regards to sustaining it in the future, far into the future. So that's part of that cost. And the other cost, I'm not really sure what sections you're referring to, but that's what we got there.
Donna,
So-
can you just tell us where you're looking?
Yeah, I know, I'm jumping all over the place, sorry. So I'm back on the revenues, Jim. So in the revenues for water sewer, it says receipts from customers and users. We went from a budget of $19 million coming in revenue, and we jumped it to up $1.7 million, which was a 9.4% increase. So for me, the water sewer receipts coming in means that the taxpayers are paying that. So that, to me, is a jump to the taxpayers of a substantial tax increase for the water sewer this year for them, which is way above what we've done for the past like 8 years or so. And I could be wrong on this, but then when you go to the water sewer, obviously some of it is the tri-town, some of it is the 4 people that you're hiring. I'm trying to figure out where the differential is, like where we jumped $1.8 million. Where do we need this? Where is the $1.8 million we're saying we need in water receipts in order to maintain our budget?
Yeah, I'll give you over to Ed. He can break it down.
I know.
to you.
I think it's more of an egg question than
Yeah,
a
sounds
you
like it.
question, but it ties into your department.
Thank you, the chair.
And you told me this once, Ed, but I went back and looked and I can't figure out, I can't equalize the numbers, I guess is my biggest question, especially when it's going to be passed on to the,
No, understood. Behind the table of contents, there's several summary pages
Mhm.
for revenue, and then behind that, you'll see an index of expenditures by program, by department and program. If you look to,
Page 4, Ed, in the books.
starting on page 4, yes, if you go to page 6, towards the bottom, you'll see the sewer department. You'll see a major increase there on the MWRA assessment, the $448,000.
so that takes, so you may have just answered it. Hold on for 1 sec. So you're saying the $1.7 million is a combination of all, like the DPW, MWRA, the Tri-Town, all 9 position increases? Is that where you getting the
If you look-
1.7?
I'm sorry.
Should better not be.
Well, I know, this is, this one I'm struggling with. I'm really trying to equalize the numbers and I can't do it and the numbers must match.
If you look at the bottom of page 6, the summary, the sewer department, you've got a net increase of $292,000 over the current year. And then under the water component, you'll see an increase in the administration of $578,000. The system rehab, $266,000. That's primarily the 4 employees that Director Dutton mentioned. We've got an increase in the tri-town and then an increase in the debt service. So the 292,000 plus the $1.4 million gets you to the $1.7 million on the revenue needed to cover these costs.
So it's sewer plus water.
Those 2 funds make up, there's a
Water.
combined water sewer rate, that's correct.
And that does tie down to the 1.72.
And I can't find page 6, so I'll go find page 6 later and look at it. I rearranged my entire book to fit me.
Donna, I have it in an Excel file I can send you later.
Okay, that would be great. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so the 9.61%, I'm still on it. The 9.61%, how much of that gets passed? Is it 100% is going to increase to the taxpayer?
The increase on the
everybody-
water and sewer is going to be charged to the ratepayers. And again, that number will come down based on the reduction we're
Based on the
receiving
reduction because of the
from the MWRA. The 381,000, that number will come down in total.
Okay. So it's still, so the sewer charge will be 4.48%, which is what Nicole said earlier. And then there'll be a water charge in addition to that, which will also go up to equate to the 9.61.
Through the chair,
Go right ahead, Ed.
the 4.48% is a combined water sewer rate increase. That encompasses both with the reduced amount of the MWRA assessment. So the rate is calculated based on an average homeowner using, is it 12,000? 1,200 cubic feet is quote, the average homeowner. And that 4.48% is that average increase for that average homeowner. And Businesses will pay a higher rate because they're using water in the higher tiers, but on average, that's the rate increase for the average homeowner.
So where does, I'm sorry, Ed. Where does the difference come from for the revenue then? If we're saying we're increasing our revenue of water and sewer by 9.41, but we're only charging the taxpayer 4.48, where's the other 5% coming from? This number should go down actually too, but.
The 9.41% will come down by 381,000 based on the MWRA decrease we received notice of this morning.
So 4.48% goes to the taxpayer, and then we'll have that percentage that it comes down. And then where does that revenue, the percentage difference come from? From 9 point, whatever it's going to be, from 9.41 to the 4.48 minus the deduction.
The 1.7,
An email. Huh?
that's fine.
I'll send you an email. It's
Okay,
much
I'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
I'm
equalize
sorry.
where this increase is coming from, and I can't figure it out. Okay.
Sean, did you want to?
Yeah, and please, thank you. And Ed, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think what is trying to come across is that the 4.8% increase is an overall percentage increase, but it's 4.8% for water and 4.8 for sewer, right? So like in my city, right,
So
Ed, is that correct?
The total combined rate is a 4.8%, and that is for an average homeowner. We have a couple mega users of water. They're paying all of it at the higher tier. They're paying a higher percentage rate. So you're comparing apples with the average homeowner to the total overall that we're raising in water and sewer revenue.
I'm just going to jump to Counselor Shasha and go ahead, Counselor Shasha.
Well, thank you. I actually, I only have questions because now I'm starting to get confused with this conversation. But I think, so if I'm hearing you correctly, the actual increase from last year to 2021 is going to be about 7.4%, which is the 1.8 million minus 380,000. That is combined water and sewer. Of that, some homeowners will pay a 2% increase because they don't use a lot of water. Let's say some big industrial users, like maybe the bakery over on Granite Street, will end up paying 10 or 12% more or something. And the 7.4% rate, total rate that we end up with is across all customers at all levels. Is that?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but you're correct. The average rate increase for the entire utility will come down from the 9.4% by 381,000. The 4.48% is for the average low user on the residential side, and the larger commercial users will pay a higher rate because we have a different tiered structure. Rates 1 and 2 are at a lower rate, and tiers 3 and 4 are at a higher rate. So the larger users will pay a higher rate, and their rate increase will be higher than the average of the 4.48%.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hold on, Counselor Flaherty.
Well, I want to make sure that all the rate questions are sort of cleared up because my question is different. So anybody who has rate questions about the water and sewer should just keep going, and you should come back to me later.
Counselor Connors.
So I just want to say that 100% Steve cleared my answer. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. It's the average. Some are high, some are low, and the 7.4 is the average of what we're going to revenue come in between the different tiers, right?
Yes.
Steve, yes.
Thank you for clearing that up.
I got it. I got it now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Counselor Flaherty.
My question has to do with the budget report again. There's a section on page 96 that talks about engineering services, where we have $70,000 budgeted for that, where we have had nothing budgeted for it in other years. And I'm just curious what those engineering services are going to be.
Yes. Okay. I had mentioned this earlier about reductions on the general fund side. And so those engineering services, which are related to, basically we have consultants that assist us with water projects and help us with putting those plans together and things like that during the, they're actually in-house assistants who we have a contract with, and they help us put those plans together and do GIS first and stuff like that. And that gives us, that has a cost associated with it. So it used to be in engineering completely. And so we shifted some of those costs over to water and sewer, as I mentioned previously.
Okay, it's just an example of that. I see what you're saying. Okay.
And also we do have as had mentioned previously, we have the town engineer is leaving, and there are another one or two individuals retiring as well. And so we are trying to put some additional money into the water side, because mostly that's what they do, is work on water projects. So we want to make sure that we have someone there available to take care of those needs. So that's why you see those two big increases.
Okay.
Counselor Ryan?
Thank you. Jim,
Yeah.
you also have increases for part-time employees and engineering interns. What's the reasoning behind that?
We are hoping that John will stay a while. So,
Okay.
so John Moore. So he has a lot of good knowledge and experience, and would like to keep him on for a little while. Part-time, of course, because I can't do full-time. But
Okay. And through the chair, and for the increase for the $242,000 was brought up earlier by one of the previous counselors. And you said that, I think Lou said that's going to be workers doing water line work. Do we have the equipment and vehicles for them already, or is that going to be a capital cost associated with that?
no, I've checked with staff, and they have adequate equipment for those individuals, and they're ready to go. Once we get these positions in there, we will have available resources for them. Yes, we won't need to have additional capital. In the future, is, obviously we'll be changing things out, but they do have the vehicles needed.
Thank you.
Counselor Shasha?
Hi, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just two quick questions on that same page. There are two significant increases. There's a group life and medical, which is going up 100,000, and then another insurance line farther down that's going up another 42,000. Is there something going on there that's driving the insurance costs?
Steve, which page? Sorry, which page, Steve?
I'm on page 96.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairperson?
Yes, go right ahead.
So that is due to when you increase positions, you have to increase those items as well. So they go hand in hand.
Okay, so that's the 242,000 in additional salary expense. That's the benefits for those people.
Yes.
Health insurance.
Okay.
Health insurance.
It's a rate increase for the existing employees.
Yep.
Thank you.
Counselor Ryan?
So one more question on the standby weekend duty is going up $21,000. So that's to put people on standby for the weekend. Who gets that standby? Is that workers, managers, supervisors? Who gets that standby?
I'll give it to
And why
Lou.
is it going up so much?
Yeah, I'll give it to Lou if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's contract driven. Any of the guys that are in system maintenance can have the standby duty as long as they are properly licensed by the state of Massachusetts. If they're not properly licensed, they cannot go on the standby. The reason why that budget line increased so much as it did was when it first went on, it was put in on December of 2019 is when it started. So from from the first week of December to June 30th was only half a fiscal year. So we had to do a full year's worth.
Okay, so who goes on standby? What
It's
types
not,
of employees?
let's see, right now, one foreman is eligible for it. We have 2 maintenance craftsmen that are eligible for it, and 1 heavy equipment operator. Those are the 4 guys that are doing it right now.
So no one, so those are the positions, 4 positions, and they're on the standby pretty much all weekend, and then the 2 off shifts during the day. So if they leave
Correct.
3 to
Yeah.
11, 11 to 7, they're on standby 5
Yes.
days a week, and then on the weekend they're on standby. So I don't know if that's 16 standby units. So it's just those 4 positions.
Right.
It
but
doesn't go any higher
just,
than that.
right. It's just 1 person though that's on for the week. So that 1 person is on standby. They rotate. So
Yeah,
one
that
guy
doesn't
does
make
it for,
sense. That
what's
doesn't
that?
make sense. You're budgeting $55,000 for standby. A person makes $1,000 a week in standby. It's got to be more than 1 person.
Nope, $1,000, $1,050 a week for 1 person to be on overtime. That's what they negotiated.
1,050.
That's not overtime. That's standby.
Correct. Yeah, it's a flat fee.
That a person gets $1,000 a week to be on standby.
Correct.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Someone's gonna have to explain that to me. Maybe you get $200 a week, but $1,000 a week does not make any sense. I'd have to see that in the contract.
It's in the contract. I can have Nicole and Karen get it to you. But it is in the contract.
I'd like to get that tonight, please. Thank you.
Counselor Connors?
So actually, I had a couple of questions, but that one was just answered, the standby one. And Jim partially answered Charlie on or Council Ryan on the part-time employee / engineering intern, but I don't think I ever heard back. Like the engineering intern, there's been no funding for that, and all of a sudden we have $30,000 this year for an engineering intern. And you know, interns are great to have, but is it a need? I'm sorry, I'm on page 96.
Oh, yeah, I see it here. Yep. Oh, I know. Yeah, go ahead. That is another one that was removed. It used to be entirely in engineering, and it got removed from engineering and brought over to water and sewer, because that's the vast majority of the work that they do is water and sewer related. It was removed from engineering. If you look at the public works section, that has been removed from there and then brought over. I think there's a little bit of money left within engineering for some non-related work, but that's what happened. We moved it over to water and sewer because most of the work they do is water and sewer related.
How many interns do you guys have a year?
Usually 2, I believe.
Yeah.
And are they full-time interns? They're 40, you know?
Yeah.
I believe they are, yes.
And do they stay for, how long do they usually stay for?
It depends on their schedule. I mean, we have some that are, you know, they'll stay for the summer. We have some that will stay for, you know, 4 or 5 months. It depends really on their schedules, on, you know, what they're doing in school.
Okay. So there's a decrease on the other side for this amount. So it's kind of a wash.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Counselor Connors. Thanks, Lou. Any other questions before we move on to stormwater? Okay. All right, we'll move on to stormwater, and I believe Nicole, I think it was Nicole is gonna, or was it to you, Sue, going to have a slideshow?
hold on.
Madam Chair, if we could just have a moment.
Yep.
We're going to shift some folks around. And then happy to control the presentation from here. Cindy O'Connell, the Stormwater Manager, is going to give the presentation.
Great.
So I don't know, Sue, if you want to, if I need to be co-host or how you want to do that for purposes of sharing the screen.
Okay, let me put you as co-host. Meredith, I think you need to make her co-host.
Okay.
If you can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. You should be able to share your screen now, Nicole, whenever you're ready.
Right. Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second. Actually, before I do that, do you prefer Cindy or Cynthia? Either one. Do folks know our stormwater manager?
I don't.
Allow me to introduce you before I share the screen. Stormwater Manager Cynthia O'Connell. Good evening.
Hello.
So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. I'm going to share the screen here. This one. And so then, Cynthia, if you've done this, you can just scroll through and the counselors will see what you see as you run through.
Okay, so how do I advance the slides, Nicole?
So you can click down on the arrow there on the cursor.
That one?
Yep, and that should run
That one or that one?
No, the one above
That
it.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. So good evening, counselors. As Nicole said, my name is Cynthia O'Connell. I'm the Stormwater Manager for the town of Braintree. The other members of my team are Tyler Klaus, who is our Stormwater Outreach Coordinator, and Susan Sass, who is our Billing Analyst. What I'd like to do is give the counselors who are newly elected kind of a crash stormwater course on Braintree's program, Stormwater 101. So the question is, what is stormwater? Well, it is accumulated water coming from rain and from snow melt that lands on what we call impervious surfaces, so roofs and driveways and roadways. And as it collects in the gutters along the street, it's picking up pollutants from the driveways, from dog poop bags that people have dropped, from litter that's been moved by the accumulated stormwater, goes into our piped drainage system. So the series of catch basins and manholes and pipes that are in the roadways, and gets conveyed pretty much directly to our surface waters and wetlands. The major impaired waterways in Braintree are all of our large rivers. So the Cacheta, the Manatequit, Town Brook, and the Weymouth Fore River all have been identified by the Department of Environmental Protection as impaired primarily for bacteria. And this is a map of DEP's integrated list of rivers. Our rivers have been on this list for probably at least a decade. So the old approach to dealing with stormwater was to collect it and get it off of our roadways as quickly as possible. That has proven to kind of concentrate the pollutants that are coming off of the stormwater and actually get them to the surface waters very quickly, which causes all sorts of degradation to the quality of the waters. The new approach is to try and capture stormwater and treat it before it goes into the systems that wind up discharging into the stormwater, into the surface waters. So on the left, you see here in the back, a catch basin, in the foreground, a trench drain. The water that goes into those would then be discharged from an outfall similar to what you see on the right-hand side of that slide. So the old approach was general maintenance, cleaning catch basins periodically, repairing culverts as they needed maintenance, minimal treatment of the stormwater, and compliance with the previous stormwater management EPA permit, which was originally in effect in 2003. They have since issued a new permit. The date on it is 2016, but it did not go into effect until 2018. So the new approach to stormwater is really geared to significantly improve the water quality in our surface waters. And that is a benefit to all of the residents of Braintree. It makes it much more pleasant to use the waters for recreation. It means fewer beach closures, safer roads, because you're trying to collect some of the stormwater before it even gets to the roads. It has a positive impact on flooding, and it also has a very positive impact on habitat for aquatic animals and for other animals that use the water. It also allows for long-range planning for drainage improvement projects. So taking into account what you have in your system and how it's aging, where repairs would need to be done before you get to the point where there's an emergency. And as I mentioned, the EPA has issued a new stormwater permit, and that is one of the primary reasons why the stormwater utility in Braintree was created. So a couple of the new treatment solutions include things like tree box filters, which you see on the left. We have 3 new tree box filters in town that were installed using funding from a grant program from MAPC. And the photo on the right in this slide is a bioretention area or rain garden, which is another way to treat stormwater as it comes off a paved surface. You create a depression, it's filled with very special soil media and plants, and both of those things serve to treat the stormwater, allow it to infiltrate into the ground, and come out cleaner when it heads towards the discharge pipe into the surface waters. Parking areas can often be retrofitted. If there are parking islands, sometimes they can be modified to treat stormwater. And a more conventional detention basin would have a forebay. That's the smaller ponded area in the foreground of the picture. And that allows the water to accumulate and slow down so that some of the sediment that is traveling in it can settle out and be removed before it goes into the stormwater system. The primary push towards the new approach is a scientific basis where once the Clean Water Act got rid of the low-hanging fruit like combined storm and sanitary sewers that were discharging into rivers, and manufacturers who were discharging pollutants into rivers, the scientists at the EPA realized that the quality of the waters was not improving as much as they expected it to. And the consensus was that it's because of so many pollutants being discharged through stormwater, which is much more diffuse and harder to find and manage. So stricter requirements have been implemented. The EPA, even under the 2003 permit, has issued a number of fines to communities in Massachusetts. So there is enforcement going on to try and make sure that towns comply with these regulations. The timeline for the adoption of the stormwater utility, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it took place over the course of about a year and a half. Once the draft 2016 permit came out and people started to realize what those requirements were going to be like, communities understood that they were going to need a funding source for a lot of this additional work that needed to be done. Jim and Mayor Sullivan worked on this over a number of months, presented it as part of the budget in March of 2018 for the FY19 budget. And it went through a process with rules and ordinances and Ways and Means, and was ultimately approved by the full council in May of 2018. The first bills were mailed out in July of 2018, and the stormwater staff was hired in October of 2018. The 2016 permit, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it didn't take effect until 2018, has 6 minimum control measures that each have very specific requirements associated with them. And the first 2, public education and public involvement, were significant increases in the amount of work that is required, which is one reason why there's a staff member whose specific responsibility is the public outreach element of the permit. Illicit discharge detection and elimination is where there are connections to our stormwater system that are putting sanitary sewer or discharge from washing machines, inappropriate elements into the stormwater system. We have to track those and eliminate them as part of the new permit. Construction site runoff, when a project is under construction, there's usually a lot of earth moving involved, and the sediment that comes off of those sites, if it isn't controlled with erosion control management elements, will not only affect the stormwater system, but it also carries pollutants with it, because chemical pollutants adhere to the sediment and cause additional impairment in our surface waters. Post-construction stormwater management is the maintenance of stormwater systems once a project is completed. As part of the site plan review procedures and the stormwater permit procedures, as well as Conservation Commission permits, developers are required to create something called an operation and maintenance plan, which is a step-by-step procedure for how their stormwater management system would be maintained over time. And one of our responsibilities is to hold them to those promises and make sure that they're actually maintaining the systems the way they said they would. And then pollution prevention for municipal operations is basically our own good housekeeping measures, making sure that our facilities are maintained in an appropriate way so that we're not causing additional impacts on the stormwater system. So some of the, and this is a long laundry list, but some of the things that we are required to do to meet the permit are mapping of our stormwater systems, screening of the discharge that's coming out of all of our outfalls, cleaning the catch basins, sweeping the streets. At some point, a couple of years from now, we're going to be required to do some retrofits on municipal facilities to help with the stormwater treatment on each of them. And to make sure that our local ordinances are up to date with the requirements of the stormwater permit. This slide is a lot of statistics about our existing system. I'm sure you can all read them for yourself, but we do have 261 outfalls, all of which have to be tested, 3,887 catch basins, all of which are going to have to be cleaned at some point, 98 miles of town drain pipe, and so on. So there's a good sized system in town because Braintree has been developed for quite a while. And the majority of the system is starting to show its age. So there's a lot of maintenance involved. The barriers to making sure that all these things are done are the same barriers that a lot of other departments have: lack of necessary time and materials. We need a drainage master plan. We need additional GIS information and the staff to actually do all these maintenance items and to comply with the regulatory requirements. The funding approach for the stormwater utility was based on utilities that have been in place in other communities, making sure that the system was as fair as it could be to the property owners in town, utilizing outside grant funding where possible, making sure that our solutions were cost effective, that we're able to do long range planning. Everyone in town pays for water and sewer, but there was no revenue source for the necessary maintenance of the stormwater system. So the current Stormwater Enterprise Fund was based on a lot of work that was done by an outside consultant, where they looked at all of the residential properties in Braintree and averaged the amount of impervious surface, so that's roofs and driveways and other pavements, and came up with what they call one equivalent residential unit. And the magic number is 2,780 square feet. That's the average impervious surface on a residential parcel in town. That's used as the basis for calculating the stormwater fees for larger properties, such as anything above a 3-family house, so 4 families and above, commercial properties, industrial properties, and institutional properties. Those all are calculated, each parcel is calculated independently for its impervious surface, and then that total is divided by the ERU to come up with the fee for that parcel. The decision was also made to cap the largest amount that any one parcel could pay at $2,719.50 or 116.7 ERUs. The way the billing is accomplished is it's a line item as a fee on the water and sewer bill. The ordinance and the enterprise fund were written to include kind of a phased increase over a 6-year period. The first 2 years, each individual residence or each residential parcel would be paying a total of $25 per year. So it's $6.25 a quarter on their water and sewer bill.
Is it 5 years?
Well, it started in 18.
Yeah, but it ends at 5 years.
It ends at 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking at the dates here.
Sorry,
They go to 2020. In any case, the ordinance includes an increase in the fees in July of 2020 from $25 per residential parcel to $45 per residential parcel, and a subsequent increase in 2022 of $60 for residential parcels. So one ERU would be $60 with the second increase. We looked at a number of other communities that have stormwater utilities, and these are updated numbers from the last survey that the State Stormwater Coalition did. And if you take a look at this, Shrewsbury, Newton, Northampton, Chicopee all have stormwater utilities. I think Newton's was one of the very early ones, and they're charging a residential rate of $100 a year, where ours is $25 a year. The benefits of a stormwater utility are primarily the improvement in the quality of the water in all of our rivers and streams and ponds. It also allows long-range planning for drainage projects. It allows staff time for the maintenance of all of our system, and it allows us to be proactive rather than reactive in our planning for meeting the requirements of the permit and making sure that our stormwater system functions the best way possible. So what has the stormwater utility accomplished since we were instituted in the fall of 2018? The full-time staff was hired. As I mentioned earlier, my position as stormwater management, an outreach coordinator, and a billing analyst have all been hired. And we've spent quite a bit of time on public outreach and regional collaboration. We were the impetus behind the creation of a local stormwater partnership called the Four River Stormwater Partnership that includes the towns of Quincy, Weymouth, Holbrook, and Randolph, as well as Braintree. We meet 4 times a year to talk about the various issues related to stormwater in the rivers and streams that go past the borders of Braintree, and share solutions for a lot of the requirements for the permit. We also participate, the staff in Braintree participates in the State Stormwater Coalition, which is another great clearinghouse for ideas, for grant funding, for workshops that help all of the communities to meet the requirements of the permit and to have their stormwater systems function properly. We were also successful in 3 grant submissions last year. We're working on the second phase of a grant for the Stetson Street culvert replacement. The field data collection portion is just about complete, and we're submitting a grant application tomorrow for the second phase of that project. As I mentioned earlier, the MAPC Climate Resiliency Grant allowed us to install the 3 tree box filters around town, 1 at the Doherty Gym, 1 at Hollingsworth Park, and 1 on Stetson Street. And we are also in the middle of a grant that is studying all of the municipal properties in town to see which ones would be suitable for a best management practice retrofit for stormwater. That grant is due to be completed at the end of June 2021. Some of the staff has gone through the culvert assessment training, which is a statewide program to take a look at existing culverts, see which ones might need some maintenance. And the slide on the right is quite a collection of shopping carts in one of the culverts on the Manatequit near the Pearl and Ivory intersection. The outreach program has been very active, both on social media and town publications. We've done school presentations, tabling at the farmers market, a rain barrel program last year that was very successful. We sold 200 rain barrels last year. This year, I don't think we're going to be anywhere near that because of the pandemic, unfortunately. We also had a Scoop the Poop dog waste program that went on, and I don't know if any of you saw any of these little blue dog bones with poop bags in them, but they were given out at the rabies clinic last year and will be given out again on Saturday at the rabies clinic this year. We participated in the Braintree Beautification Day and also scheduled a beach cleanup with the coastal zone management people in the fall at Smith's Beach. So I think we've accomplished a lot in a fairly short amount of time. And I think that's my last slide. I would be happy to take questions or share questions with Jim.
Thank you so much.
I do not know how to do that. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. That was really informative. I want to open it up to the committee for questions regarding stormwater or the stormwater budget. Councillor Connors?
I feel like I'm the only one that asks questions.
We're just waiting for you. And then
I know. I'm sorry. So I have a question on the 4 additional people that we're hiring. in the sense that I know they per the law or whatever, we have to hire them now. But we're hiring 3 working foremen and 1 laborer. So I don't know. So can you, Jim, maybe go through, so a working foreman to me, like, oversees 3 to 4 people. Like, a foreman is a foreman. They're a working foreman, they work, but they also oversee, because they're a foreman, laborers or workers under them. So why are we hiring 3 working foremen and 1 laborer?
So the main, like you said, foreman oversees the 2 other individuals. So they are the field people. There will be and it's mandatory by the EPA that we have to clean the catch basins on a regular cycle.
Right.
And so we haven't been able to do that, to be honest, and we just haven't had the resources. So this will now give us the resources to make sure they're maintained on a regular cycle. The third person, the last person you're talking about is funded partially by Stormwater and also general fund. So it's only half a position. And that half position is actually doing maintenance work relative to the building that Stormwater is in. So that has that benefit for Stormwater and is also maintaining other things. So it's a custodial position.
The laborer position?
Yes, it should say, I don't know, I think it's a W3 is what it is, but that's the custodian position.
3-2. I'm still learning.
Yeah, W3 is a entry-level position, and it could be any number of different duties associated with it. But in this particular case, it's regarding custodial duties.
So what we're seeing is only a half salary, not a full salary.
Yes. Yep.
And so still to my question, so the ratio seems off to me as far as foreman to laborers. Like a foreman, normally you would see 1 foreman and 3 laborers.
Yeah, so there is a W7, a W3, a W5, and a W7. Okay, so a W7 is a senior person who oversees the other people. There's 2 W5s, and the reason why that there's a lead foreman and the field foreman is because they need licenses in order to drive these vehicles that mandate that they have that level of requirement. So a regular W3 would not have those licenses. They could not utilize those vehicles. And so
it's a CDL?
No, it's for a
jet truck?
Specialized equipment. So it's a vac truck. So they actually have to pull Vector jet and also a clamshell. So those require specific licenses in order to utilize that equipment. And so because of that, we had to, we were a little bit more top heavy on that because we had to do that way, because that specialized equipment is exactly what they're going to be using all the time.
I apologize to the chair. So I know the council was asking about staffing levels. So what is the full staffing level for the stormwater department now? Can you go through the titles for the whole department?
Absolutely. Okay. So there is the current staffing for the department is, so there is the other, this isn't the whole thing, right? Okay. So there's a stormwater manager. Then there's a principal clerk who deals with all of the financial matters, because not just for payroll, but they also have to do impervious areas of every lot that's in the town. They have to track that, adjust it as needed, so that it's a substantial amount of work. An outreach coordinator, as mentioned, that's a significant part of the compliance relative to the EPA. Then they are a working foreman. There's a W7 position right now and 2 W3s that existed prior to this budget. They are doing street sweeping on a regular basis. So they have guys go out assisting with the street sweeping, other duties relative to making sure that the drainage system is functioning properly.
The W3s can do street sweeping?
They are assisting with other duties like cleaning out, cleaning streets and stuff like that. They don't do the
so the guy, the W7's doing the street sweeping.
The street sweepers pay a W3 rate.
Oh. Yeah, this-
truck and the clamshells pay at W5.
Okay, so the street sweepers can be utilized at the W3 level, yes. But the new, sorry. Can I continue or?
Please.
Okay,
Yep.
All right, so the new positions are, they are new, and so when, like, as I mentioned, these are so those were the additional duties and the positions that we created in the past. Or we actually utilize those positions in order to make everything self-funded. Like I said, there are positions that are there and they're self-funded. So now the new ones are, they are there for the actual basin cleaning, and those
What are
require
they? What are the new positions?
a W7 and two W5s.
Okay.
Yeah, a W7 and 2 W5s. And
So now you're gonna have, so after this, you're gonna have 2 W7s, 2 W5s, and 2 W3s?
yes, two different.
So is that 3 crews or 2 crews?
That'd be 2 crews.
So a crew is a W7, a W5, and a W3.
Yes.
And the 2 crews do this, are cross-trained to do the same things, or does one crew do one thing and one crew does another thing?
Typically, one crew will do this. The new crew will do the catch basin cleaning, and the other crew does street sweeping. But we can move them around. We always put the positions such that we can utilize them and switch them around. If one's out, we could always move over to another side. But they're always,
okay.
The position is not specific to that.
Okay, and does the jet truck, you have 1 jet truck? Back to jet?
Yeah, the one back to track, but we also have 2 clamshells.
One on the sewer side, one on
Yeah,
the water.
we have one in water and sewer has one, and the highway has one as well. We also have 1 clamshell, 2 clamshells.
So who's the storm drain? Is that under the highway?
I can have Ben talk a little bit.
I'm just wondering how many back to jets do you have? And
2, one for water and sewer and one for, with this particular situation, they're in highway, but everybody, you know, works as a team. So.
Okay.
Counselor Ryan, are you set for the minute?
So Jim, hiring these new 3 positions, the W7, the W5, and the W5, what's the difference between how we started the department with the W7, the W5, and the W3, the 2 W3s, and now coming back for W7 and the W5 and the W5? What's the decision to hire these 3 additional people? Is it based on how many, the work they need to do? I'm just wondering the reason behind it.
All right, well, the original 3 people they do all of the street sweeping, and we've done a great job at doing that. They've been really cleaning up the streets very well. But the basins have to be cleaned per the permit. Literally, I mean, they have to by law. And so we've got to get in there and clean these basins, but we do not have the resources. We just don't have it. Matter of fact, we use them like occasionally if we see that there's, you know, it gets filled up, the basins get filled up, we clean them out. And we have been like every once in a while, but the amount percentage-wise that we have to clean on a regular basis that's required by the EPA is much higher. You have to completely go through the entire community within a certain time frame. And we just are not there right now. So this will help us bring us to that level.
So, through the chair, so with the existing positions, the W7 and the 2 W3s, you can't sweep all the streets. How many times a year are you required to sweep the streets? Or is it just as needed?
Right, no, what the stormwater regulations say that, I think it's about maybe 2 or 3, twice a year or something like that, they have to maintain to go to every basin. So you're supposed to look at the street sweeping. Every 2, and then however, I think it's every 2 years, isn't it?
For the basin?
Yeah.
There is one point in the permit in the first 5 years where we have to verify that we've cleaned everything.
Yeah, so we have to go through all the basins on a regular basis. I believe it's every couple of years they have to be, and we have a lot of basins in town. And so they all have to be cleaned. So we can look at the basins once we get an inventory of everything and see which basins have the biggest needs, and then we can prioritize and maybe space some of those out a little more. but we have to, in all totality, keep them down to a certain percentage. I believe it's under 50%. That have to be, it can't be more than that. So we have to have a regular cycle going through the entire community that's per the EPA permit.
So does every catch basin have to be inspected and cleaned as necessary,
Yes.
quarterly, biannually, annually? What is
So
that?
it would probably be, we have to go through the entire community no more than every 2 years. I would think that's probably what would be required.
Okay. Okay. And then the original rates that were set up, we came up with the impervious square foot area that to charge people based on that. And we came up with a rate. Does that rate cover these additional positions? Is that all figured in, or do we have to increase that fee?
So the totality of the budget that we estimated that was sent out in the original packet that I sent out was the totality of the amount of work that we needed to comply with the federal regulations we had estimated, including maintenance and upkeep and permitting and everything, is 1.5 million. And so that's what we had estimated. We divided by the impervious area. That was the $60 per EIU we generated. We started out at the basic level, trying to get by with that. Like I said, we knew according to the ordinance we would eventually get to that higher level. We couldn't implement it all at once. We didn't feel that was appropriate, so we started off with the in the ordinance that a certain percentage would be taken out in the first year, and then the third year another higher percentage, and then at the fifth year, at the beginning of the fifth year, it would go to the full amount of the $60 per ERU. So right now we're going to from $25 the original permit to the $45. So that pays for these positions. It pays for some equipment, some materials, and things like that in order to maintain the vehicles and maintain the cleaning and get rid of the sediment that we get out of it and all that stuff. So,
how many? What other equipment and materials are you going to need to purchase for these new employees?
So I think we're pretty much good because we have the 2 clamshells already, and we have appropriate number of vehicles within highway to be able to take care of that. So within the capital, I believe we are looking for one new vehicle, like a regular vehicle to
Pickup.
Yeah, pickup. But that's about
So
it.
not to parrot what you just said. So at the beginning of this program, you came out with one level of effort based on how many people you hired, and the plan all along was to keep moving up with the employees. And now this is the next phase to go to the next level, and this is the plan to do it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Counselor Connors?
Oh, sorry, I was already unmuted. So, do they sweep the streets all year, or they just do that spring, summertime, correct?
No, they sweep pretty much year round. So on
Year
street
round?
sweepings, yes. I mean, not in the winter. Well, in the winter it's kind of hard to do, but depending if we can we sweep, if it gets freezing and it's kind of hard to do it, but at that point it's more plowing than anything else.
So I guess, what do they do in the off time then? Like, so they're designated to go out and sweep. That's what their job is, to go out and sweep the streets. What do they do? What do you guys utilize them in the off time?
We do not have off time in the winter. If you know anything about highway, we are super busy in the winter. I mean, every single person is full board. I mean, there's times I haven't slept for 2.5 days. I mean, it is totally nuts. There is no way we have downtime. That is crazy time. So the downtime is the uptime.
No, I'm just saying, so my question is, you utilize them in other places in your department. So for
absolutely.
Snow plowing or something else. So they're really,
Yes.
they're not sweeping full time,
Yeah,
100% all through the year.
Yeah, all these positions that we're talking about, even within water and sewer, in the winter, they assist with snow. The highway, they assist with snow. So, in stormwater, they're going to be assisting with snow. Everybody helps with snow. It's just, it's crazy time. Anybody with a CDL, out on the road. Even if they don't, and they can do a little pickup truck, we put them out. I've done it. So, you have to do what you got to do. You got to get out there and do it.
No, I was just, like I said, I'm wondering how they utilize when they're, because they can't sweep full year. So
No, I understand.
can you guys explain to me a little bit about the outreach coordinator and what the functions are of the outreach coordinator?
Absolutely.
And I'm asking because we had a question with the resident with stormwater, and I didn't know if maybe this is one of the people I should have contacted or tried to contact concerning.
I'll have Cindy answer that. She's more.
Okay. The outreach coordinator does all of our print work, social media work, does school presentations, tables at the farmer's market, sets up things like the work we're going to do for Beautification Day, the coastal sweep program with the beach cleanup. The permit has very specific requirements that there are 4 different groups of people that we have to send things to on a regular basis to meet the permit requirements. Residents, developers, industrial people, and God, I'm blanking on the last one, and landscapers. So there are specific basically brochure requirements. All of those groups have to be messaged at least twice during the first 5 years of the permit. We've done quite a bit more than that. We've had brochures going out in the water and sewer bills. We've had dog waste brochures that are going out with licenses. They're in the town clerk's office. We've had messages go out on the Bell newsletter. And then the participation element is public meetings like this one, where people are available to comment on what the program is made up of. So there are a lot of elements to it. Residents call or do see-click fix to us. Things get to stormwater that way. I'll take the calls, the coordinator will take the calls, and sometimes the billing analyst will take the calls as well, because she can certainly explain what the fee is made up of and why they're being charged a certain way, how that number came into existence. Does that answer the question?
Yes. So the reason I was asking is both Steve and I actually have had some stormwater drain issues with some residents, local residents, and I didn't know if that was as far as regulations and rules and what they're supposed to be doing and how they're not supposed to be setting up, connecting into the stormwater, like running hoses and all that type of stuff. So I didn't know if the outreach coordinator was somebody that should be dealing with that, or if it stays with the building. We ended up, I think, dealing with the building inspector on it. So,
well, the enforcement issue on that, because the building department is the code enforcement group, enforcement tends to go to them. But we certainly, I've been out and inspected people's sites and talked to them about stormwater on their sites and tried to problem solve with them. And you know, our website is full of information, and all of our email addresses and phone numbers are there. So people do reach out to us.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks, Bird.
Counselor Shasha?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just 2 questions. The first is just to follow up on what Councilor Connor said, because your presentation touched specifically on impervious surfaces and runoff. Does that also include pumped water? Because that's the issue we're seeing a lot, people pumping water out of a sump pump and draining it over the sidewalk into the sewers. So would that be included in what you do, or is that just strictly ordinance driven?
I think from the council's.
Councilor Ryan?
So part of the problem, the biggest part of the problem with stormwater can be it illegally being discharged to the wastewater collection system. When you need the capacity of the wastewater system the most is in a major rain event. So if everybody's stormwater, everybody's sump pump is discharging into a sink in their basement, which is going to the sewer line, it's taking up valuable capacity in the it's taking up valuable capacity in the system. So you want those to go into the storm drain. So it's perfectly legal for some pumps and pumping storm water into the stormwater system. It's the preferred method. Now, does that mean you can put a pump in the wetlands behind your house and pump the wetlands into the storm drain? That might be an interbasin transfer act, but for the most part, that's what you want to do. You want to pump the stormwater into the stormwater system and not the collection systems, the wastewater system.
If you want to talk. Yeah, Ben wants to say something if it's acceptable. Good.
Hello, good evening. So as far as like some pumps, you discharge out of your home onto your own property, and that's fine. What we suggest, dry wells, dig a pit, bunch of stone, let it in there like an old septic system with maybe a leaching field or something like that, and that can be done. When it starts running out onto the roadways and sidewalks, then we, especially wintertime, obviously, we really have issues with icing and safety and all that other stuff. When they do discharge, say, to the front of the house, at the homeowner's cost, they can tie into the town stormwater system as long as there's obviously something on the street, but it is not a town service, it's at the homeowner's expense. They can be cited, would be code compliance for discharging onto the public way. We can work with them. It would be a permit process through the highway department, but it would be at the homeowner's cost that they can tie in from their property to the storm drain system to prevent that water from running onto the sidewalks private way and to prevent the citation and the visits from code enforcement.
Okay, thank you. That is the direction we got from the building department. I just wanted to clarify that's still an ordinance issue that we already have on the books, and that is separate from what this group is doing in terms of just general runoff and impervious surfaces. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilor Ryan, did you have a?
Yeah, so I just want to go back. So the town of Braintree was under administrative consent order from the Department of Environmental Protection that we had sanitary sewer overflows that entered receiving bodies of water in the town, and we were polluting the waterways, the Fall River. One of the solutions was to come up with a sump pump amnesty program. And we went around to all the residents and we said, if you have a sump pump and it's discharging into the sink or you have it illegally connected into the wastewater collection systems, we will come to your house and pay for it to be removed. So there was an amnesty program. We got hundreds and hundreds of homes that come off the wastewater collection systems and tie into the storm drain system. And the town absolutely paid for that. Now that's not in place anymore, the amnesty program, and now it's at the homeowner's expense. But the stormwater department that we have now that we're talking about tonight is to make sure that there's a large amount of pollutants that come off a roadway that can be discharged into a receiving body of water, that if the storm drain system is not properly inspected and maintained, you can have a lot of contamination going into the receiving bodies of water. And that's the main purpose of this new stormwater department, is to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do in accordance with the new stormwater permit. So I think we're talking your issue, the issue you're bringing up with homeowners, that's a little different, but I'm sure they can get some guidance on that.
Right, and I just wanted to clarify, because that is what we got from, I just wanted to clarify that that's continuing to be an issue under the existing ordinances, and this group is not looking to change any of that. Right, okay. So, and the second question then is, it sounded from the presentation like a lot of the work is catching up on maintenance that has never been done because it wasn't required before. And you had the 98 miles of pipes and 261 basins and all this. Does there come a point at which we have caught up with all of that backlog of work to be done and there is just continuing ongoing maintenance of all of this, and the cost to the taxpayer ends up leveling out, going down, and just becomes more day-to-day operations?
Well, right now we're acting reactively. So we have a flooding concern. So we go out and address the issue. That is not the way to operate a community. So we will have a proactive approach. So we will not have the constant, big storm event. We'll have 1 or 2, 3 different hits. We have to go out and address them, take care of them. With this, by having this in place, which is required, it's not for sure, but it will also give us a reactive situation, a proactive situation where we're now cleaning it, maintaining it, and we should have substantially less flooding issues during events. And so that will be a good benefit to all of the residents of the town, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the committee members on stormwater? Director Arsenal, I have one question. The drainage rehabs, that's on page 118. It looks like this is a fairly new item, $20,000. Whereas last year we only budgeted $1,000 and we've only spent $153.
I'm sorry again, can you say which one is
The
it?
drainage rehabs, it's on page 118. It's 64-640-5530.
Oh, all right. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So those 2 particular items, we, in the past, the highway department was the one who maintained those type of treatments. And so those treatments are now, they're not being decreased now in that other division, but we had planned all along to move it into stormwater. So we have been under budgeted for that for a while, but now we really need to fund those. We'll definitely need to fund those for the drainage, removing the sediment from the basins that we have, and also to repair basins that are broken, because when we do all these inspections, we're going to notice concerns or whatever. We had to mitigate those. We have an old system. We really haven't had a lot of attention. We maintain them on a regular basis, but I think Charlie, let's say.
Who's going to be doing that work? Who's going to be doing the repairs and the maintenance? Is this the people that are in the department?
Yeah, the people that we're getting here will be assisting with that as well. So the new positions that we'll be hiring will be helping. They'll be doing the basin cleaning, but like you had mentioned, that they can do more than that. We also can have the street sweeping people that we had to assist as well. So as needed, they will be assisting with that.
So I guess my question is, if they inspect the drain line, it's broken, and they have to excavate the street and fix the drain, are they doing it, or are they going to call other DPW people in to help do that too?
They could do it themselves, or they can call another group of people to come and assist. So
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for or from the committee for Director Arsenal or his team? Okay. Oh, Councilor Ryan?
Yeah, I guess I just want to repeat that. To me, seeing the additional people being added to this department, and when the budget's tight, was concerning to me. But after hearing from Director Arsenault that this was part of the overall plan to incrementally build up the staffing for this department, I can support this. Thank you. Thank
you, Councilor Ryan. All right, I believe that is the last item on this evening's agenda. Jim, please pass along our gratitude to your team for all the work they do every single day. Bear with me. Gonna try to get it right tonight, Sue. Is there a motion to table, or sorry, Solicitor Todd, did you want to say something? Okay.
No, Madam Chairwoman, thank you.
Is there a motion to table order 20038 to our next Ways and Means Committee meeting on May 11th, 2020?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Semino, roll call vote, please. Sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Aye.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Yes.
Council Sasha,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you. And then Mayor 20039, FY 2021 budget, Community Preservation Committee, or take up any action relative thereto. No action is required on this order this evening. This will be discussed when the Planning Department is presenting, and this has been tabled to May 18th, 2020.
Do you need a motion on that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie. Did the revolving accounts. Sue, are we good for adjournment?
Mr. German, yes.
Yep. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Clerk Semino.
Council Barica,
Yes.
Council Connors,
Aye.
Council Flaherty,
Yes.
Council Ryan,
Yes.
and Council Sasha,
Yes.
all in favor to adjourn.
Thank you, guys. See you Monday.
Awesome.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.